I've also enabled the sharing.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So I'll start that implementation part from start. Okay, let's do that. Let me just share the screen. Share. All right. Okay. I'll remove that, and I'll just remove that. Okay, so with Firebase, the authentication part is you'd go to the authentication tab, you click on sign in method, or if you don't have a sign in method, it will automatically bring you to the sign in method tab. You can enable email or password or phone number or Google or any of these. Right. So the most common one is email and password. So once you have that enabled, you will be able to come to your application, your view application. So what you first remember doing is you import Firebase. So the way these view frameworks work is that they are based on import statements. So this is ES6 syntax of JavaScript, where you import dependencies or modules in this case. So you import Firebase, you can import Firebase auth. You need your config that you get from the project settings. So if you don't get it the first time, you get it from the project settings. You come down here, you go to the config part of it, then you copy what's necessary here. So after you copy that is when you paste it in here and you initialize your application using Firebase dot initialize app. Then you pass in your Firebase config, which is up here. Once this section of it is complete, right, you can now import and use Firebase anywhere in your application. So in order to test out the login and authentication part of it is you can have your div and you can have a form and all right, a form where it has an input and you specify the type of the input where it is email, right? You can put a placeholder that says, please enter your email, then close it off. Then you can have the next one where the type is of password. So when you insert type password, all it does is generally what you normally see when you're importing your password on a site is it will have dots or it will basically hide your actual plain text password. So even here we can say, please enter password, then close it off. Then we can have a button of type submit, right? And then we can have the actual text that says, let's say register in this case. Then up here, so this is normal HTML, but this won't necessarily work with Vue.js. So the normal way you would have normally captured what the person has inputted here is you would need an ID, then do document dot query selector, and you pass in the ID, and you say dot value, only then do you get what was inputted here. So now Vue.js has made it easier using a property called v model. So v model is just, it's called data binding. So you can put in anything you want in here. So we can say email, right? Then in the next one, we can have v model password. So what this allows it to do is in Vue.js, it has export. It has an export default function here. Then what it exports is you have data, you have methods, and a bunch of other properties.
And having good taste, appreciating art in all its forms. I trust you to do that. Hey, we not continue.
Okay. All right. So with this, what you want is you can add a function. So here you can have, so they are called event listeners. So in JavaScript, you'd have to grab the button, add an event listener to it. But Vue.js allows you to do something with a shorthand called @ then from here you can already see abort, blur, can play through, change, click. So we are looking at a click event. When someone clicks this button, we want it to do something. So normally in normal JavaScript, you'd pass in a function or have a function that does something. So in here, you can pass in the name of the function. Let's say submit, actually, let's call it register, right? And we can call it like that. So this would be normal. This is now Vue.js syntax inside of it. Your v model, your @ click handlers. This is Vue.js. So even on a form has an event listener called submit. So when this form is submitted, what must it do? So in this case, we can also say it should call the register method. So sometimes what forms do is when you submit it, its normal behavior would be to refresh the entire browser window. You would see it reloading again. So we don't want that to happen because we are handling the submission of the form internally with Vue.js using our JavaScript. So in normal JavaScript, you'd grab the form, then you would say prevent default behavior. So Vue.js also allows you to say that when you submit .prevent. So when you're saying .prevent, it's saying when this is submitted, do not do your normal behavior. I'm preventing the normal behavior that you do of refreshing the browser. But I want you to go to the register, call the register method. So in here, since we have v model, these properties, email and password, need a data property since it's data binding. So Vue.js has a data function that returns all the necessary data that you're going to use in the client side, basically your HTML code. So in here, you can come in and say email and put it empty like that, and password and make it empty like that. So what happens is, since this section is empty, when you show it on your browser, it will be empty as well. Let me just do that so you can see it. Okay. So as you can see, it's empty and you have your placeholder text instead. But if I came to email and said john@hello.com, what will happen is this is actually what will be populated into your input field. So if I save that, you can see already it as john@hello.com. Same thing with password. If I write John hello, it will come pre-populated with John hello. But since it's a password field, you will not see the actual characters. So that's what data binding does. Okay, let me remove those two. Any questions thus far?
No, I don't have a question this far.
Okay, all right, all right.
Mm.
So in Vue, we have things called methods. So methods are basically functions. It's just a Vue name for functions. So when you have a function, you would normally define it like function, then your function name, register, then you would do something like that, then you do something like that. So this is how a JavaScript function would look like. So if I put it here, you'll see that it has the syntax highlighting for JavaScript. But since we don't want that, we're using Vue. Vue allows you to literally just put in the function name, which in this case is register, and the parentheses, the brackets. So register. So this register is basically this register. So if you click here, and it's going to come into the script, look for a method called register. If it finds it, it will execute whatever is inside of the register. So instead, this time you don't need to put in function because method is already wrapping it to say whatever will be in here are functions. All right, so to test it out, if it actually works, we can have an alert that says I work and save that and come up here. You can even click here, the alert should work. So it shows you that it is connected, hence the alert I work. All right, so as you saw, it did not refresh the browser. So if I were to remove this, it probably would refresh the browser. I do that and click OK. You see, it refreshed the browser for that split second. So we don't want that because we are handling all the logic. It's not submitting it anyway. So we add the .prevent. So with Firebase, it comes with an authentication method called auth. So when you import, so wherever you want to use Firebase, you would have to import it like so. In any Vue page or code that you're using, you import Firebase from Firebase inside of your script tags. And from here, at any point in time, you can use Firebase. Then to make sure that you're actually importing it correctly, if you just press dot, it will show you all the Firebase methods that are there. So the functions, the services Firebase has. And in our case, we are looking for auth. So we can do that, firebase.auth, because we want to use the authentication method that Firebase has. All right. Then we want to, what is our main goal is to create a user. How are we creating this user? Using an email and a password. So it's straightforward. They literally have something called create user with email and password. So it's straightforward English. It doesn't have any specific syntax that looks weird. It's just straightforward English that you're using, except it's JavaScript English. So if you look inside here, if I did this and did that, it takes in arguments. So arguments are basically, so you can see here, it says, I take in an email, which has to be a string, and a password, which has to be a string, and I return a promise. So if it takes in a password and email, we can see that we already have an email and a password variables. We have variables up here, but how do we access those? We can't just say email. It's not gonna work, right? But if you do click enter, VS Code will automatically do it for you to say, oh, okay, I know which email you're referencing. It's this email that you're referencing. So this keyword, it just says, don't look anywhere else, look in this specific file, this specific export that I'm working with, and find me wherever it's written email. So the same thing would work with this dot password. So automatically we are populating the two properties that it needs, which is email and password. But it said that it returns a function, a promise. So a promise is basically something to say, you're doing something and I promise that I will return it back to you. I'll return something back to you. I'm not sure what, maybe you know, but I don't. I promise to return something to you. So how we do that in JavaScript, this is called asynchronous methods. They are happening, but then we don't want to wait too much for them. We don't want to sit and wait. So we say, only if you're done, then. So a then statement, as you can see there, it says unfulfilled. Only when the create user email create the user with the email and password, will we then do something once it's fulfilled. So you can do what we call an anonymous function. So it's a function without a name. It's not like register, it's not like whatever. It's just a function, but it does not have a name, hence anonymous. So we can alert to say successfully registered. Please log in. So at this point in time, what you can do is once they register successfully, it shows that alert to say, yeah, you registered, now please log in. Then you take them to the login page. So then, all right, we have the alert, fine. Then what happens then is at times it might break, it might not work. So we need to handle the not working part. And in JavaScript, we basically catching, it's called catch. So we have a dot then when it works and catch when it doesn't work. So we're basically catching the error. So we can say we are catching an error. So even this is also an anonymous function, but error is a parameter that we are passing into that anonymous function. So you can see if it's rejected by some odd reason, we don't know, we need to handle that. So another anonymous function, and we will alert the error that comes back, and it comes back with a message. So we need that error message that comes back from Firebase. So Firebase will send us something back if it doesn't work. So with that being done, we can cross our fingers and pray that it works. So we can say john@do.com 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 0. So if it works, we should see the alert that says successfully registered. If it doesn't, we should see the error from Firebase. Okay. Okay, click register. So it says this email address is already in use by another account. So this it means that it didn't register successfully, but we were able to catch it. And the message from Firebase, it says this person already exists. So normally you would have to go inside your system and check if a user exists, if that email is being used by someone else, but Firebase already does that for you. So that's the good thing about Firebase. Then it says successfully registered, please log in. So if we come back to Firebase here and go into the authentication part, as you can see, it created the user. So already there was a user created called john@doe.com. So therefore, that's why it said, you can't do this, can't do it. It worked already, so you can't do it anymore. But if we go back and maybe change it to, let's say, hello.com and register that, it'll, so successfully registered, please log in. So to confirm that it actually did register. So that's the problem with asynchronous code, is that method is being called twice by the form itself and the button. So with a button is, if you use type submit, so when I'm clicking this button, it's submitting first the form, right? It's submitting the form first, then handling the click event. So if you can either do it like this. So the best practice would be to remove this, because we already know when we're clicking this button, we are handling that click somewhere. All right. Cool. Let's try again with, let's say, future@email.com and click register. So since I removed the type submit, it should only work once. Oh, okay. Fresh that. Let's actually see if it was working all along. So all along it was working. So you can see that it has future, it has Asive, it has John. So I can actually remove this part. Right. So from here you can actually you get to see that how did this person log in? They used an email, when they logged in, when they signed in, the user ID, and you can actually copy the user ID if you want to use it elsewhere. Or you can reset their password here, you can disable their account, or even delete it. So that's Firebase handling authentication for you out of the box, done and dusted, no issue. Any questions with Firebase authentication? Questions? No?
No.
Yes,
my
yes.
side.
What about the
What
login
about
button?
the powering?
The login button. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no problem. So the login button, we can just change this a bit and say log in and call login here, right? And call that method login. So Firebase, when you log in, it does the same similar thing. So we are saying we call Firebase, let's say successfully logged in, just here. Okay, let me say that. All right. So what Firebase has is a method called, so since here we are creating a user with an email and password, it's only logical to have a sign in with email and password. So as logic speaks, it actually does have that method called sign in with. Let me just spell with. And from here, you can already see custom token, email and password, phone number, email link, pop-up, or redirect, or is sign in with email link. So we are using an email and a password to sign in. We can just click that. And same thing with it, we need to pass it the email and the password. And we continue with the dot then, alert, and we catch. So, but when you actually sign in, Firebase sends you back the actual user. When you sign in, it actually sends you back a user. But in this case, it basically returns this back to you. The email, their display name, a profile picture if they have, or anything of the kind. So let's go ahead and do that. So we know with future, the password was 1234 up to 0. So we'll try that again. This time we'll log in. So we'll say future at email.com and the password 1234567890. And if it worked correctly, it should just say to us successfully logged in. Let's see. Change my password. Chrome found the password. Data breach. Change the password now. Okay, so the form is still submitting. Hate it. So let me remove the actual form and just have input elements. So HTML does allow you to just have elements without a form, because the button actually handles the logic. So if we try that again, future at email.com 1234567890, and you click log in. It's there, you have it, successfully logged in. All right, so we can actually go back to Firebase and refresh this, and it will show that you logged in at a specific point in time. So the most recent login was future on the 3rd, but will it align there on the 3rd? So if a person is logged in, it will show. So all these people are still logged in. So the minute you register, you become logged in. Any questions? So the login button works similar to a sign in button. All you're just changing is from create with email and password to sign in with email and password. That's as easy as authentication will ever get with Firebase. Questions?
Yeah, and there's no questions from my side.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys want to go another session, but there's 9 minutes left, so I can answer any questions that you might have, assurances.
Yeah, me for today, I think I've bit more than I could chew.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's kind of a lot.
I don't know if I'll be allowed to, but what I can do is I could go ahead and do y'all a solid and set up the project for you guys. Or do you want to set it up yourselves?
What do you mean by that? like for the first setup, or like from the beginning?
So like the initial setup, all the
Oh
steps
yeah,
that I did
the
now
terminal.
and
I
all
feel
that
like it's
stuff.
much better if you set it up by yourself. That's for me. I don't know, because I don't
Okay.
think I've followed enough to. We're supposed to submit this on Saturday, right?
On Friday, we need to be at least on point, and then Saturday we are submitting. But since we are submitting on Saturday, it means on Friday we must be fine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Asive, what's your concern?
I don't have like much of a concern though. It's just that I couldn't follow the steps in setting up the application.
Okay, so what I will do is I will also send the recording, because I've recorded all the sessions. So you'll have to make
Mhm.
time and go through the recordings. Secondly, Johannes will sort of summarize what he was giving us today. So I think the best thing that you can do for now is to download those two or other things that he said we should download. I know the first one is the I think the Microsoft Studio, something like that. I've jotted it down. I think he said reactive and view. Yeah, and then so for now you can download the platform, and then once we send the videos, you can then play around with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Buchabelo.
Yeah, everything is fine so far. I think the best way is you should send the recording so that we can follow the steps.
Oh, okay. What you will do from here is, I don't know, how far did we go? Because of age, I had interruptions. I was on some phone calls, so I couldn't. So can you just brief me quickly, Mr. Johannes, with regards to the features of the app in terms of the interface, the user interface?
Okay, so with any platform, the biggest part they will also tell you is the authentication part, and authentication is the most difficult part because the rest of it you can literally just put it in HTML. So what I focused on here is setting up the entire project, getting through the sign in and log in phase of any application. So from here, once a person is logged in, they can see the home page, the content, but you can also do yourselves a solid and say that the way we are doing it is you can have access to resources, but if you want to do learning, only then do you have to log in. So in that case, it will do you guys a solid of not having to heavily rely on making sure that the authentication works, but as long as you can have the content there, then that's a winner, because nowadays not everyone wants to register just so they can have access to information.
Oh, okay. So I suppose Asive, Buchabelo, and the two who are missing, P.S. Bennett, and I've just spoken to Sakaya. I think he also spoke to you, Johannes. He's part of the group as well. But what I've informed him about is, if anyone has a question, I've just sent you the link to join our group of the education app. So they will ask you on the group while they are busy trying to find it right in terms of using the platform, understanding it. So for now, I think our task will be to practice what you have shown us today, and then Yeah, and then as you have said, the most important part or the complex part, it's the yeah, that name. Yeah, and then from there we'll then look at other pages as well, or other features that we need to add. Probably we'll start with that on, I don't know. So yeah, the question that I have now is, can you guys be able to try and do it by tomorrow? And then, I don't know, should we have another session tomorrow, or should we have it on Thursday?
Uh,
Probably we might
Thursday.
delay. Let's do this from our side so that you don't put ourselves in a lot of pressure. Tomorrow we can take a break. What you guys can do is just to play around. And then on Thursday,
Practice.
we meet, we move on, we invite Johannes. But if you have any questions with regards to what we have done so far, you can ask on the group, and then Johannes will answer. And then on Thursday, we continue with the other features or other pages that we, at least by Saturday when we present, and then we have those things. So on Thursday, we'll have that another session. And then on Friday, we practice whatever he has given us. And then probably on Saturday and then Sunday, we might submit, because of we know we still have time until Monday, but we wanted to sort of make sure that we push as much as we can. Do we agree on what I'm saying?
Yeah, we agree on that one.
Oh, okay. So what I need you guys to do is, I don't know, because of it will be much better if we share the work, because of we have 4 people, Buchabelo, Bennett, Asive, and so everyone will look at his or her strong points, and then they can say, okay, me, I think the authentication part, I can do it. The other can say, okay, I think me, the interface of the homepage, I can do it, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know who's more confident between Asive and Buchabelo. If one of you is more confident, I think they can give us guidelines and also roles for the coders.
Not confident at all.
Okay, Buchabelo?
Yeah, I mean, I'm confident on that one.
Okay, fine. So please lead us. Assign, so far what you have seen, you can assign, but I think mostly it will be on Thursday where we will now have more work to do. That's when you can assign. For now, we can focus on this one. Is it cool?
Yeah, it's cool.
Oh, okay. Any questions, ask on the WhatsApp group, and then Johannes will avail himself when he has time. And then Johannes, is it fine if we meet on Thursday, same time?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Mr. Johannes, for your time. And then at least now you can prepare better, because of you know where you are and you know where to finish off.
Awesome stuff.
Okay, thanks. Good night, everyone. Thanks. I will send the video.
Thank you.